Part of the intent of this show is to show that there's so much diversity in Indigenous people. There's so many cultures to be celebrated, and also narratives and lives that are fully present and contemporary. Indigenous peoples are not stuck in the past. They're not what we learn in public school history books. They're not black and white images. They're in full color in the present, and they're here to share their stories in the show. My name is Gloria Sanchez, and I'm an artist, an arts facilitator, and emerging curator. I'm also a community organizer, and I help organize the Many Winters Gathering of Elders since 2019. The Many Winters Gathering of Elders started in 1992 based on a dream by Elder John Fenmaker. The point of the Elders Gathering is to bring together Native elders from local nations, so local tribes like the Gabrielino Tongva, the Kis, the Tataviam, the Chumash, the Hashiman, among others, to share their teachings and to hold space to share ceremony, to share songs, to share dances. And we also invite elders who are from other nations across Turtle Island, like the Dene, the Dakota, the Ho-Chunk, to name a few. I take all these teachings and mix them up together to express my own cultural heritage. I'm Chicana and Pinay, which means I'm Chicana, Mexican, but identifying with my indigenous roots, and Pinay, which is Filipina. Art is a way for my own healing. Art is a way for me to dig deeper into my cultural background. And I feel the same about the works that are in this show. They're expressions of traditional art, but also contemporary Indigenous artists who are telling their stories or helping facilitate space for others to tell their stories, whether it be political, social political movements, whether it be fully multidimensional individual and breaking stereotypes of what Indigenous people are assumed to be. There is not one way to be an Indigenous artist. As you can see in this show, there's so many different mediums, there's so many different messages, and some pull from the past, some pull from the past and present, and that's the intent. Walking through the gallery, you start off with a little bit of history of the Many Winters Gathering of Elders. We have the original proclamation from 1994, which states the purposes of the gathering, the intent to create a space for spiritual survival in the context of the 500-year anniversary of Columbus discovering America. We have featured works by Elder Jesus Jesse Gutierrez, portraits of elders, all women who participate in the Many Winters Gathering of Elders. Julia Bongani, rest in peace, who passed away in 2021. She was a Tongva elder. Gloria Arianes, who is also a Tongva Chicana elder. Cindy Alvitre, who is a Tongva elder, and also Dee Dominguez, who is Yokut. We have artwork by Antizochi Portillo, who is also an elder. She's Chicana, Mayan, and White Mountain Apache. And she does both ceremonial shirts, ceremonial dresses, but she also has everyday practical materials like blankets and placemats and pillows. And we have an image of two of the main founders, John Fenmaker and Uncle Tony Portillo.
Iron Circle Nation, that was a name that was given to us by Taksha Uste, our Archie Fire Reindeer. He started a drug center in the 90s. in Wounded Knee in 1973. And the whole movement, the American Indian movement, has gone into the community as well as in the prisons. And what we've been doing is since '76, we've been hosting a inipi ceremony, that's a sweat lodge, for young people. So when you see young people in the barrio, we feed them on alcohol and drugs, we empower them, we put them in the van and take them to the ceremony. What I want to share with you here is some of the ceremonial things we do for our relatives. And our relatives, we have an altar, we call it a chanupa. It's the duality of a man and a woman. And we put it together to bring understanding, to bring peace, to bring health. As an artist, I make all these ceremonial things for the people and give it away. Some of the rattles, we have some of the relatives, they have the deer dancers, we have the bird dancers. And what we try to do as human beings, we imitate, and everything came from the animals. They taught us. And so we sing all these things at a time of prayer. The coyote has taught us all these things, and the nature teaches us. This is important that we show the work that's been done. And this gives a forum to Corbin Harney, the Shoshone leader of ours. He's walking the spirit road now, but he went all over the world. He was a great man.
More recently, I started incorporating the recognition and acknowledgement of the First Peoples where I actually happen to exhibit. There's a marriage in a sense of the recognition of where I am as an artist, where I am as a human being, and making work. And I would say that in this particular situation, of course, my history with the Mini Winters Gathering of Elders makes sense that I'm here, but it's addressing also the path, the healing path that I've been on since the gathering, and bringing up kind of reworking older pieces or reworking the collection of ephemera that I used for various purposes before the gathering, creating a photo series that was addressing my drinking. And with the gathering, I started on a road of sobriety, and I've been on it since then, and it's been life-changing. So this piece behind me addresses that journey, and then sort of an explosion of color and celebration to this new life, and considering also more traditional means of healing through the use of the medicine wheel. And that medicine wheel is in a case that I actually found at a local antique store, and it had contained actually life-saving equipment used by Divers Action Network, because it means that something's gone horribly wrong in a sense and you need to be rescued. I gave it a new logo, and I put the medicine wheel in, which is used in healing, and all sorts of ways of addressing where we are in our life, the seasons and the planets, and where we are just as human beings in our growth and our healing process. So the snake also comes into play because it's not quite eating its tail, but it's continuing with that idea that this is a never-ending cycle, and we're always on the path of healing.
The series that I have on display right now is Here as in HERE, Our Voices. It's significant for here, we are still here. And it's featuring MMIP, which is Missing and Murdered Indigenous People, our awareness movement. Significantly for it is, in most of the photos, you obviously see a red handprint. That red handprint signifies that we are standing in solidarity, but as well as a bold statement that we have been silenced, but we're not going to be silenced anymore. The movement has been going on for a very long time. There's been a lot of missing and murdered. I myself am a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault. I'm also a Selected Pueblo Indian. Yes. So between those two things, kind of pushed me to kind of look into this. And when I saw about MMIW and MMIP, I said, okay, well, let me try something. Let me be an advocate. Let me put my art and see what happens. I pushed to have viewers, I would say, provoke them to ask questions, to ask what's going on, how can we help, because this is a big, huge epidemic that is going across Turtle Island as well as Canada and South America. Since the pandemic, there's been over 10,000 at least cases, and maybe a fourth of, if that, a fourth has been put into the Department of Justice database. This includes children, two spirits, men and women, as well as now they're finding residential schools, they're finding children, from all the way back to the early 1900s. This was a huge thing. I have now recently, I think I've done about 200, almost 200 people. And I continue to do it. I won't stop until I know I'm done.
First and foremost, I want to say that all this work that came from here is really the inspiration of what we've done with Iron Circle Nation, with Tony and John, that inspired me to do what I do, and in the visual context of a voice, because art is a voice in that sense to educate, and these pieces here would predominantly really talk about what happened in Standing Rock and what continues to happen even in Oxum. And just other sacred sites, and the desecration of sacred sites, and how us urban native peoples, we intend to kind of assimilate into what we are fighting, in a sense, because we are part of the earth. We know we're Mother Earth context, but we live in an urban setting, so somehow we try to intend to kind of carry both teachings of like, we've got to work for our life to provide for our children, and then sometimes we also live a contradiction of like driving a car as we fight for Mother Earth, but we know the truth of what we are truly fighting for, right? And a lot of the time it's really important. So somehow these pieces kind of progressed into that, like we became part of the industry of the indigenous perspectives of like fighting for water, fighting for land, but more than that, we become with it to fight against it, and I think these pieces reflect that, and I think that's where they become elements of pipelines and so on. So this series is called the Indian Pipeline, in that sense, but more than that, it's always remembering our future generations of where we are going towards. Because if we don't work towards the betterment of all of us, then where are we at, as human beings, and I think that's really important.
I'm welcoming you all here to my Moon Lounge. Going back to my ancestral roots and connecting with the indigenous ways, and one of the things that we do is we get together monthly with a lot of women and we do different things, like we pray, we get together and we pray to the water, and we do crafts, and one of the things that we like to do is sing, and it's called Waking Up Our DNA, so that we could remember what we are and who we are and what's inside of us, what are the teachings that our ancestors left us. Luckily for me, I already know that my abuelitos from Michoacan, they used to have a reboceria. So their reboceria is nudos, knots, macrame, weaving. So they were weavers. So essentially I come from a line of weavers. In this area here is a space where I hold for women to come, and we have pláticas. We come and we sit and we talk and we heal. I have displayed different pieces here, like the butterfly, which is the monarch butterfly, which connects to Michoacan, and the fact that they're endangered. So I just wanted to bring awareness to that. And I have another piece that is also like a piece that I was working on during 2020 to kind of calm me and bring me back to center during that chaotic time. Everything here has a meaning, and hopefully you guys enjoy it and love it as much as I loved making it.